Good evening, folks, and welcome back to day 7 of the Bible in 365. I hope you've had a blessed day. I'm happy to be here and happy to be with you guys. Today, we are going to be taking a look at Genesis chapter 21, starting in verse 22 and going all the way to Genesis chapter 24 and stopping in the middle of a story in Genesis 24:27. But we've got some exciting stuff today, so let's get started. All right, folks, so in Genesis 21, starting in verse 22 all the way through verse 34, it's about a treaty between Abimelech and Abraham. You should remember Abimelech from a couple of chapters ago in chapter 20. He's the one who God appeared to in a dream and said, hey, don't sleep with Sarah. Sarah is not Abraham's sister. It's his wife. And so this guy comes back onto the scene. He sees that the Lord has blessed Abraham and that his hand is in everything that Abraham does. So he says, let's make a treaty. Abraham has a little bit of beef with Abimelech just over a well that his servants had been using and stole from Abraham. And so Abraham just pretty much says, dude, I swear it's mine. Here, take these 7 ewes as proof. And Abimelech's okay. So they make a treaty. Now, moving forward to chapter 22. Chapter 22 is a really famous story. The majority of you guys have probably read it before or have heard of it before, so I'm going to just kind of skim through it fairly quickly. This is where Abraham is infamously tested. God calls him to sacrifice his only son, Isaac. This doesn't entirely make sense because Isaac is the promised son, the son of the covenant, the one who is supposed to multiply and make Abraham's descendants as numerous as the sands on the shore and the stars in the sky. And so the reader and Abraham are both kind of like, God, what are you doing? But we do see that Abraham acts out in faith. He goes up onto the mountain and is getting ready to sacrifice Isaac. He's taking the dagger down, and the Lord provides a ram in the thicket to be sacrificed. And so Abraham dedicates that place to the Lord and names it The Lord Provides. So it's really cool to just see Abraham's faithfulness in that moment. And because of that, the Lord reconfirms his promise to Abraham concerning the covenant that his descendants will be made great and multiply throughout the land. Now, moving forward to chapter 23. Chapter 23 is a little bit of a downer to the story. At this point in time, Sarah dies. Sarah's 127 years old and she dies. It's part of life. Abraham mourns and grieves for her, but he's in a foreign land and he needs a place to bury her, so he goes out amongst the Hittites who revere him and call him a prince because he's very wealthy. God has blessed him. And he says, I'm looking for a burial ground. Is there someone who will give me some land? And they're like, no, you should take one of our tombs. And so there is one tomb in particular. It's a cave of Machpelah. That seems to be appropriate, and it belongs to Ephron. And so essentially Abram and Ephron go through this whole bartering negotiation, and Abraham says, hey, I will pay you for this land. And he says, no, let me give it to you, as a gift, and it's nothing to me. And Abraham says, no, let me pay you for it. So they finally settle, and Abraham gets this field and this cave as a burial site for Sarah. And that is in, once again, Machpelah, which is near Mamre in the land of Canaan. Now, moving forward to chapter 24. Chapter 24 is also a fairly famous story. It's the start of the story about Isaac and Rebekah. At this point in time, Abraham is fairly old, and it's getting time for his son Isaac to take a wife, but he doesn't want him to take a wife from amongst the people of the land. Rather, he wants a relative, which was very commonplace for that day and age. So he sends a servant to find a suitable wife for Isaac. And one of my favorite things about this is the servant says, "What if she won't come back? Do you want me to come get Isaac and take him to that land?" And Abraham says, "Absolutely not. Do not remove my son from this land. This land was promised to me and to my descendants, of whom is Isaac. So Isaac needs to stay in this land." So the servant goes off. We see that he hangs out at the well and kind of prays a prayer to God, saying, "Hey, whatever woman is suitable for Isaac, let her come out. I will ask her for some water. She will oblige, give me water from the well, and then also offer to water or to draw water for my camels." And so Rebecca comes out and she gives him water and gives him water for his camels. And so the servant is just kind of overwhelmed with gratitude that the Lord has heard his prayer, that he's found a suitable wife for Isaac. So he gives Rebecca all this jewelry, a bracelet and a ring and all this stuff, and then asks if there's enough room in the house for him to stay the night. And she says yes. At this point, our story is interrupted for the day, and we pause our reading, and we'll continue again tomorrow. All right, folks, so we'll pick it up again tomorrow right where we left off in chapter 24, verse 28, and go all the way to chapter 26, and we'll be ending in verse 35. Anyways, folks, enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night, and God bless.